Okay guys, we're gonna go over our trades for today. I wasn't able to go over my trades yesterday. Yesterday was a small red day. It was I believe I had a winner. I had a s- was- I had a little winner, a little loser, then a small winner, and then the last trade was a little bit another small loser. So it was a red day, but it was pretty small. I mean, so today we traded three stocks. We traded SLGB, VIVE, and VVPR. So we'll jump into the 5 minute on VIVE so we can see how we traded it. SGLB was moving pretty crazy. So from 283, 250 up to a high of 790. I mean, that's pretty strong. It did make it that one move in a matter of 10 minutes, and after that, it just failed. And that was pretty much it on this stock. We'll jump into the 1 minute chart to see how we traded it in more detail. So here we can see that it was trading around 250. It started moving, and then this was a little bit lighter volume here. We had a micro pullback over 408, move higher, 562. I jumped in here a little bit high. I jumped in for this micro pullback here, an entry of 562. So on this little pullback, I jumped in around 550. I figured, okay, well, if it holds the $0.50, that's support. But it's a little bit risky because the low of this was $5. So the potential for it to come back down to 5 is there, you know, from 550. So 50-cent loss, that's quite of a risk. Uh, so I jumped in there at 550, a little dip, and then it kind of struggled to break. It didn't break right away, but it ended up coming up to 570, and I sold up here. And you know, the reason I sold up here was because it kind of had already dipped. It had dips from my entry, so I was like, well, I need to get out of this position. It ended up squeezing up, making a pretty big move up, all the way up to 789. So it continued to make a move higher. On this candle, it popped up to 760. I bought for a dip down to 694. I jumped in around $7 and I sold up here around 720. Again, I left a lot of money on the table by selling so quick, but I was just kind of looking for a quick pop, and you know, I was pretty quick to take profits. I could have milked it a little bit longer, but I decided to just kind of be safe and just trade it the way that I did. So here it made a move up to 790, and then for another dip, jumped in here at $7. The reason that I kept buying at $7 was because this right here established support. This one dipped to 7 and held. This one dipped to 7 and held. This candle here dipped to 7 and held. So these two held pretty strongly. So I jumped in here at 7, gave it another shot, and another little pop up to 720. So nice little 25 cents on that entry. So it came back down to 7. So I was like, okay, well, it looks like it wants to keep on offering opportunities. So I jumped in there at 7. This time, actually, I jumped in around 710. And this time on this candle here, it came down to 7. A big bid came up, and he was being bought into. So I ended up just bailing out right there for a small 10-cent loss. And it ended up popping up to around 740. It held that support, but on the next time that it came down to test it, it did break it. It definitely broke it hard, and that's basically what I was trying to avoid. You know, it breaks that support level, and I expected a pretty big flush, and that's what we got on that second attempt on the break of 7. It hit a low of, once it broke 7, it immediately came down to 675, 670, 660, and it just continued to go lower down to 656. Okay, so here, so that was that trade. I'm pretty happy the way I traded it. I just stuck to my guns, and I was like, well, it's not bouncing up whenever I thought it was, so I'm gonna just bail out, and I'm glad that I did. Although it kind of faked me out the first time, on that second time that it did break it, that was confirmation, basically telling me, okay, you did the right thing by bailing out, and that's what I want. Here, this right here is very clean here for a kind of like an ABCD pattern. Break of this 720 for a move higher up to a high of 775 right there. It looks really clean right there. Uh, I did end up taking it. I did end up taking that trade.
Hey, Charlie, you get a copy? You can go ahead and close those five out.
Right there. I'm sorry. Okay, so here what I was watching for was a 1 minute candle to make a new high. 1 minute candle to make a new high over 698. So it came. On this candle, so VWAP support was 646. It came down to 656, and so I was kind of watching. Okay, so definitely over $7. A break of that, then move past 720, break 720 for a move higher, potentially hit high of day of 790. So on this, I ended up getting here at the very bottom of this candle, which was a very nice entry. 675 was my entry, and I ended up, I jumped in there and I ended up selling here at $7. Unfortunately, I mean, I kind of wish I would have held a little bit longer, but I was like, well, that's a 25-cent pop. That's pretty decent right there. But you know, from 75 up to 775, a whole dollar per share from my original entry spot. That's pretty impressive right there. Uh, I am trading with smaller share size, so it just wouldn't really make sense to sell half and then the other half. Once I start going with bigger size, then it's more feasible to do that. So after that, it popped up and then it just failed. I mean, it failed pretty hard. It didn't hold any support levels. I mean, it hit a high of 775, and then it came down to 7. It would first off, it didn't hold 750, which is kind of expected. You know, I was expecting a little pullback and maybe the next candle a move higher, but here it didn't hold 750, the half dollar. It came to 7. It didn't hold to 7. It had a little pop up to 723, and then it failed 7. VWAP, it did not hold VWAP. Half dollar, it did not hold half dollar. And here just kind of bounced, chopped around here, consolidated. Here we had clear support on this level of 617. So that right there is support. It's definitely a bear flag. That would not be a long entry. It would definitely be a bull trap. That's what it would be. So I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened here. So you can see that it broke this consolidation to the downside. So people were thinking, like newbies, new traders were thinking, okay, well, this is a nice little bull flag here. But no, I mean, you had this pop up here, it didn't hold. So that kind of tells you it's weak. And then it comes down, and then it is below the VWAP. So that alone is another weak, another flag of weakness. So here, kind of a bear flag basically is this right here, where it comes down, pops up a little bit, and then on the next move lower, it breaks this low, and it just flushes. So that's exactly what happened here. It came down, kind of curled up, and then it just boom, flushed all the way down to 550, and it just consolidated there, and it just continued to show weakness. I mean, and that's very similar to yesterday's stock. I don't remember which one it was, but it did almost the exact same thing. So here, surprisingly, it popped out of the gates. So from 407, it hit a high of 470. So that's pretty impressive. It is still below the VWAP, so it is pretty weak, or it shows weakness, you know. But here clearly a break of 450 for a move up to 488 was a setup. I didn't take it. You know, I was kind of wanting to get above VWAP for me to take a trade. And here it popped up to 525. It pulled back, popped up. I jumped in here on this little drop. I tried to get filled around 5, because I was thinking, okay, well, this thing, what I was thinking here was it made it high here at 520. I was thinking, okay, so this might come down to 5, bounce up, and then make a move higher, at least to 520 or maybe 530. But it came down to $5. It kind of broke $5, which is not good. It came down to 485, and then it popped back up to 5, and I had just a little small, tiny profit, which I'm okay with, because I mean, of course, this thing just failed, and I wasn't gonna hold it through this whole drop here, because it's just not there. There's really not a reason for me to hold it. As you can see here, it kind of just chopped around here. Here is this isn't really a bear flag, but it's it broke this support level. Really, you have support right there. The support that I will look at is here at 480, because once it breaks 480, you know this isn't going to find support here on this candle. So 480, and it just came down all the way down to 410. Just pretty pathetic. I mean, it's just pretty weak on that one. I believe that was the last trade on SGLB. Yeah, that was the last one. And then we jumped on VVPR. VVPR. I know this is a little bit longer recap, but today was some pretty nice action. I'm pretty excited about today's trades, because I had quite a few winners. Of course, they were smaller share size, but they were pretty decent winners. I mean, they had the opportunity to be big winners, but I was being conservative. So VVPR was on the gap and go watch list. We had a move from 325. It was gapping up to 450, so we had a nice little morning gapper right there. It was a little bit light on volume, so I wasn't too sure if it was going to make a move. So 428, I guess if I would have been watching it, this could have been a potential gap and go setup, but I wasn't watching it, but it might be something to keep an eye on. We have those explosive moves out of the gates. So here over 430 would have been a nice entry if I would have been watching it. Break 430, squeeze all the way up to 480. The thing about this one was it made that whole move in just a matter of one candle. I mean, from 430 up to 480, and then it had this little small pullback down to 450. I guess that could have been an entry there at 450 on the dip for a move up to 480, possibly 5, but it couldn't break that level, so take your profit there at 480. It breaks 451, and definitely you would have to get out there, because that is support, and it broke it, and it flushed down to 420. It halted going down. I was like, whoa, this is pretty exaggerated. I'm gonna jump in here. I did. I ended up jumping here at 419, 420, because I was like, well, this is pretty extended to the downside. There's really no way that it's gonna halt. And I jumped in there at 420, and it ended up. I was like, okay, well, it's not bouncing up clearly, so I need to get out. And I managed to get out of it. I got out break even, and it did resume lower at 418 or 411, all the way down to 390, and kind of just chopped around here, which I'm glad I dodged a bullet on that one. So that was a break-even trade. And then we had VIVE. Very similar to this one. Another pretty much out of the gates pop. I kind of wish I would have been watching VVPR. But, I mean, yeah, I guess you can say, this really wasn't a very clean pattern. But this right here was setting up. So I'll start keeping an eye on for gap and go setups, because this right here is pretty clean. I mean, that right there tells you, okay, we might have a move. And this is what it looks like pre-market. Yeah, pre-market, right before the gate opens. So here you can see that it is kind of just coiling up here right under the highs, and on the next candle, boom, you get that explosive action. Very clean. Okay, so VIVE was the last one that I traded. Let's see. Okay, so this one we got in after second halt. On the first halt, it went from 90. So this was trading at 50 cents yesterday. Popped up to 110, pulled back below VWAP. This is one thing that some of these stocks are. It's real common with these. They make a huge move and then they just fail. It breaks VWAP and it just consolidates, and sometimes they just stay below VWAP and just are weak the rest of the day. So this one from 90 up to 105, halted for 5 minutes and then opened higher, squeezed up to 130. So that's a pretty nice move from 105 up to 130, 25 cents, cheap stock. You can really go heavy on size on this one. So I jumped in out of this halt resumption. So it resumed at 130. Actually, it resumed basically where it halted. So I could have punched the order there, but it was pretty quick. It hit it opened at 130, squeezed up to 144, and it just pulled back momentarily where I jumped in at 135, and it came back up, tested the highs, and I just sold up there. So I was like, well, we definitely have resistance up here, so I'm gonna get out, and I was done. Basically 7 cents of profit there. But yeah, today was a pretty exciting day. It was actually probably one of the cleanest days that I've seen in a few days now, for the month of August. So one thing to keep an eye out for is maybe gap and go setups. Definitely moves like SGLB. It made this move pre-market. So from the time frame around from 8:32 a.m. up to 8:40. From 8:30 to 8:40. Well, this is a different time zone, so it's actually from 7:30 up to 7:40. 7:30, 7:40. You get those a 10-minute window. That's where that huge move came from. From 250 up to 790. Pretty ridiculous. But that's beautiful there. Beautiful clean price action. So that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.